Hello, this is Uncle from TacticalGamer.com. This is the Arma 3 Mission Editor tutorial series, and in this tutorial 7 I am going to create an entire mission and walk you through the whole process right up to creating the PBO file that you'll put into the mission submission thread. So it's going to be a very simple mission, and hopefully may have to break it up into a few small parts, but here we go. First thing we're going to do is start with a new mission, blank mission here. So it's going to be a small scale mission. I've decided what we're going to do is move a small team from Camp Tempest to pick up some civilians at the ruins here and escort them for an extraction from Air Station Mike. So first thing I need to do is I'm going to decide exactly how many people are going to be in the mission. First thing I need to do is place down my first player. So my Blue 4 squad leader will be right here. And I will make him a sergeant. Now that I have a player in my mission, I can save the mission. Actually, first of all, I'll do the intel. So I need a name that will show up within the game, so it'll, you know which mission you're choosing. It's going to be a co-op 8-player mission, 2 sections, and it will be I'm just going to copy that name. So it's going to be a co-op 9. I'm going to have one player control those civilians. Alright, that'll do it for now. Right, change this to 9. So I'm going to have 2 groups going. Next thing I'm going to do is make my players real quick. So Blue 4 private. I'll have, yep, and I'll make rifleman, and auto rifleman, grenadier, and a second team. Very quick. And my night player will be in a different group. And I will make him a corporal. And what do we got for? We don't have an interpreter or anything like that. Oh, we will. Why not make another combat lifesaver then? Assigned to the civilians. And so I'm just going to ungroup that. And in order to have the civilians join this group, I'm going to need to name the group with this guy. So I'm going to say that, call it civ group, just a name I've made up, equals group this, which is saying that the group that this unit belongs to is called civ group. So we can give it a name, we can refer to it later. Okay, so there is the start of my mission and the players I'm going to need. Now I'm going to need some civilians down. Definitely non-playable. They are all going to be private, and just put a few down. I'm going to name them so I can refer to them later too. C1, C2, C3, and C4. Okay. So, what I need to do right now is test that when we get close to these guys, that we can make them join this player's group. So I'm going to use a trigger. Just place a quick trigger down. Activation is I'll group it to that guy, and on activation it'll say C1. Okay, in order to have all those civilians join the group, I'm going to call them like this: C1, C2, C3, C4, join civ group. Now I just need to synchronize or group actually that trigger with that one player. That can be the rescue operator. I'm going to move him a little closer so we can test this nice and easy. And let's test that out. Right, I need to save it. Copy. Save as, paste. And there's our first preview and our first test. I need to be the rescue interpreter. I just need to move a few meters over here, and then they should join my group.
Join group.
Ready, 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 ready.
So that's how we can set up that they're going to, I'll have one player that will be in control of these civilians. Alright, back to the editor. So as I start out a mission, the first thing I'm going to do is test that I've got all of my conditions working, everything I need for the nuts and bolts, the function of the mission to work. So as I can see here, I've got that created. Now I just need to take these civilians and place them in here. What I can do is give them some waypoints. Tell them even to go inside the building. So I'm going to give them a waypoint. And there we go. There's position here. I'll tell them to go to position there. Matter of fact, I can do this even better by ungrouping them and having them be spread out a bit. So he'll go to position 1 in that building. This guy will go to position 2. Very tricky to get your mouse right over top of these once you put them on a building. So C1, I'm actually going to make this a hold. So I hold at position 1. Excellent. So these guys, I don't know if I can. There is no position in that ruins. There's 3 positions in there, so excellent. I can hide all these guys away. quick test of that. Select my unit selection tool, bring this guy in here just so I can see how it's working. Oh, there isn't much to go into. Oh, there they go. All right. Now that that's done, next thing I need to do is I can move this trigger now over to here and move this guy back. Now basically I need to get an end trigger over here just to say that we've reached here. So since they're joining this guy's group, I can use a trigger that will fire on any group member that gets here or the whole group. So very simple, create a trigger, that's good radius, and that's all I need for now. I'm going to group that trigger with that player, reopen the trigger, and activation now is whole group. Activation, I'm going to put a hint. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. So at that point, I can just test that the this trigger would work by just bringing everything in nice and close. Excellent. The waypoints don't move. Set this up so I just have to go a couple of meters up the road before they get too far away, and give it a preview. I can't see them, but they are on their way back over to the ruins. All I need to do is move over here a bit.
Join group.
Ready, 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 ready.
Alright, now they'll be rejoining me. We can move the whole group into the trigger. I don't know if they're going to go over this barricade, so we'll speed this up. There we go. The civilians are safe. Excellent. Now, because the way I think this might work is that the civilians don't necessarily need to be, if they are killed, they won't make it there. But if I'm the only one left that's alive, that player there gets to the that zone, it would trigger that the civilians are safe even though they may already be dead. So we have to allow for that condition to happen. What I'm going to do is move these guys right up onto the road to make this a little easier now. and I don't want to take the chance of losing control of them, so I'm going to create a test trigger called a radio trigger. Doesn't need an access. The activation is going to be radio alpha, and on activation I'm going to say C1 set damage 1, which means damage it completely. 0 is perfect health, and anything in between 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 are varying degrees of damage. And this is just for the purpose of demonstration. Set damage 1. Just value there. Alright. So the condition now is going to be this, and okay, I'm going to do this by creating another trigger. Just another trigger that's going to go repeatedly. It's just going to check that these guys are alive. So the condition is going to be, I'm going to do that with a trigger. Script. So instead of saying the civilians are safe, this is going to execute a script. And we'll get back to that later. Okay, now I've gone to my documents and into my Arma 3 other profiles under my player name and under multiplayer missions, and you'll see now I've got a new folder called Co-op 9 Civilian Extraction. If I open that up, there's the mission SQM, which is the file the editor is working on. I'm not going to touch it, but I am going to right click on this and create a new file, and I'm going to call it civcheck.sqf, and I'm going to edit it in Notepad. First thing I'm going to do is comment out a few things. Civcheck SQF, that the civilians are alive. So what I want to do is then have this say, okay, first of all I'm going to create a variable to count how many civilians are alive. So it's going to start at 0. And then I'm going to say if, I'll do this the simple way. If C1 alive, then civ alive equals civ alive plus 1. I'm just going to copy that and paste it a few times. And there we go. I'll have a count of how many civilians are alive. Then I can say if civ alive, oops, I need to put that in brackets, it's greater than 2, and I'll make it that we have to save at least 2 of them. Now 1's enough. Because if you saved at least 1, you know, you wouldn't call that a mission failure. Okay, so civ alive is 1, then, and this time I'm going to put it on a, going to create some multiple lines. So if civ alive is greater than 1, then objective 1 equals completed. Let me just double check something. Excellent. So, then I can say else. So that's just going to be my simple script that's going to count how many civilians are alive. Alright, back to the editor. Okay, now I'm back in the editor, and I want to make this, it's going to check if that's a lie, or that it's going to run that. To create the check, I'm going to have to make this do this repeatedly. Okay. Excellent. Actually, it should only do it once if the whole group is there. Okay, so that's fine. Now, I need to do another trigger. I'm going to say, create another variable here quickly. No, I can use the same one. So I'm going to create another trigger. First of all, it's going to set off my variables in the first place, so I need to define them. And activation is going to be independent, not present within a 1 meter circle, which will always be true. And in this case, I'm going to say civ alive is equal to okay, so then I can put in a check over here. For the condition civ alive is equal to because I used a number variable in there before, right? Scratch that. It's not going to be civ alive, that's going to be objective 1. Objective 1 is in progress. New trigger here with no axis, and the condition is objective 1 is equal to completed, and an activation hint in that case this is going to be the end condition, so I want a nice big message on the screen. And there we go. I'm going to copy this trigger, paste it, so that I can give it a countdown timer of 20 seconds later. Doesn't need a hint. It's going to end the mission with success. Alright. In this case, I'm going to say if objective 1 has been set by the check civ script to failed, and hint the civilians are dead, and copy that trigger, take out the hint, put in a timer, countdown, and activation was good. End will be 2 for the lose condition. Okay, now I should be able to test both of these conditions pretty quickly if I've done everything properly. So this is going to run the civ check once we get there. Once the civ check is done, it's going to have changed the value of objective 1 to either succeeded or failed. Let me just double check that real quick. Completed or failed. Okay. And that's these two triggers. Objective 1 completed. We'll fire the win condition. Objective 1 failed. We'll trigger the lose condition. And with my radio alpha trigger, I can test both conditions very quickly.
Join group.
Ready, 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 ready.
So first we'll test success. Alright, an error in my script. Yeah, it was a big error in my if-then statements. The condition needs the variable name C for C1 to be inside the parentheses, and it's the wrong order. So it actually is asking if alive C1. So I'm going to correct that very quickly. Okay, so if alive, C1, then civ alive. Checking very quickly again for more errors. I don't see any except for that. Okay. Restart my test.
Join group.
Ready, 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 ready.
And they're following me back up into the trigger zone. Now, it's always tricky doing a mission with AI and a hostage rescue because they react so weirdly. Error in line 11. Undefined variable expression civ alive. Okay. And my next error was I have civs alive and civ alive. One was plural, one wasn't. So it was undefined. Excellent. One more time. And here we go, doing the preview.
Join group.
Ready, 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 ready.
Here, I cut them a little closer this time. And any second here, we've got the trigger. There we go. So, now I've debugged my script, and the end condition is firing properly for success. Now, let's test it one more time for failure.
Join group.
Ready, ready,
So at this point, I could go to a radio alpha. 0 for radio. I've got a radio alpha, press 1.
He's hit! Man down! We lost one!
And they're all down. Somehow I still have one.
He's hit!
There he goes. So now, when I get into the trigger zone, it should trigger the failure. Actually, greater than 1 means there's going to be at least 2, which is fine for me. There we go. Lose condition wins, or is correct. Now we can get back to editing the rest of the scenario. So at this point, I can move everything into place here. The join group trigger. Radio alpha trigger I don't need anymore. And these players, I'll move over here. This guy I'll move with them. Just so. And I want to create a marker here real quick. I'm going to select the trigger. It's a 50-meter radius, so I'm going to now create a marker. I'm going to call it extraction, and I'm going to make it an ellipse. I'm going to make it 50 meters by 50 meters. It's going to be a border, and default is going to be orange. Just to give a marker on the map as to where that zone is. I'm also going to make another marker. And this one I'm going to call extract. And make that a pickup marker, and it will be blue. As a matter of fact, that will be good enough. I can delete that zone marker. Not necessary if I've got this one here. We'll get there. Now, I'm going to select my unit selection tool, zoom back out, make sure I got my cursor over one of those guys and bring them over close to the ruins, and get them placed. Deselect them by clicking off of them, taking these 4 civilians, putting them up closer, and taking my trigger, putting it over there, and taking my player, putting them back over here. Deselecting everything. Hit the save just to be sure. Now, what's going to happen along the way is the big deal here. Once this player gets into this zone and these civilians become part of the group, they are going to be targeted from then on by the Op4 forces trying to destroy the Blue 4 forces along the way. As soon as the civilians get there, that will be the case. If I wanted to make it so that the Op4 forces would try to attack the civilians before then, what I can do is create another unit down here, a Blue 4 unit, probability of presence to be 0, which means it won't actually be there, and before then just group these civilians. What that means is that if the Op4 does get into this area, they will try to execute the civilians. So if Blue 4 takes too long getting here, then the Op4 forces will try to destroy those civilian forces. Alright. Now it's just a matter of populating the enemy and that sort of thing, but before I get into that, I'm going to go into some more scripting, and we're going to do the mission briefing and that sort of thing. So in that case, I also need some more markers down here. So here we're going to create a marker. I named it civilians. Okay. And that's it. Let's save that and get into a mission briefing. Alright, I'm looking in Notepad++, which is what I use to edit scripts. And I can look at a briefing I have from another mission where I created diary records, which is all of the stuff that creates anything that you see in a mission briefing, and then the tasks that will show up on screen. So I'm going to have two tasks. One is make it to the civilians, and then the second one is get the civilians to the extraction point. So to make this a little easier, I could copy and paste it, but then you wouldn't see how this is going. So this is going to take me a little bit longer. Actually, I'm going to do this. I'll put this copy of a briefing in the forums that you can copy and paste out of. So that's exactly what I'm going to do here to make it easier. So I'm going to copy. Alright. This should be saved. Now it should be saved without that 8. And I want to go back to my file browser to this folder. I'm going to create a new file again. It's called briefing.sqf. And I'm going to edit it in Notepad++. Now I'm just going to paste my old briefing from my old mission in there. Save, and I'm going to get in here and edit it. So the mission name here is Co-op 9. Whatever I called it. Copy and paste it right from my mission editor. There we go. So the diary record that says credits that you click on, it will say name of the mission created by myself. Player create diary record, win or lose. Now when you put things in this file, it actually puts this in and then this on top of it and that on top of it. So it actually reads backwards compared to how you see it. So the first thing you're going to see in this is situation, and then you'll click on mission and execution. That's why this is backwards. win-lose. I'm going to erase all the text in the win-lose. I'm going to say yes, I always spell civilians with 2 L's for some reason. And I'm going to make that a hyperlink by saying marker name equals, and then the name of the marker was extract. And then just end the hyperlink with a bit of code. End marker. Execution. So I'm going to actually start backwards because it makes more sense to me to do this in logical order of how you would read it. So the situation is, got to come up with some plausible reason. So the situation might be which I'll have to create a marker for that, because I want a marker on the map for that. Marker and I'll have to create a marker, name it base. So the civilians to the east of the marker, or civilians east of the Camp Tempest, are pinned down at the ruins. Alright, mission. So now it describes the situation. The mission is obviously to get the civilians. Mission is to alright, and that and execution. Since we already know what the mission is, I've actually given some of the execution information in the mission area, but that's fine. Execution, there are alright, so there we go. So then I've got a couple of tasks. I'm going to create a task 1, which is reach the civilians. And get marker position. Actually, I want to make it a little bit different. I'm going to say civilians 2. I'm going to create another marker so that the marker on the map and the task aren't right on top of each other, so you can see them both separately. And we're going to set that task as assigned as soon as it's created. The second task is going to be reach the extraction. LZ. That's the marker name. So that's not part of the sentence or the marker, so I've cut that. And in case it was civilians alive, and it will be get marker position is extract. Okay, so that's our briefing. Let's head back in the mission and check it out. Okay, now that I've edited that mission briefing, I needed to create one more marker that was called base at Camp Tempest. So I will do that. I'm not going to put any text on it because there is text on the map already. It says Camp Tempest, so it's just going to be a start marker, and it will be blue. I can place it, left click on it, hold down the shift, and sort of indicate which way we're going. Okay, now I want to create another one of these. An empty marker that you can't see, and I'm going to call it civilians 2 so that the task will be slightly offset from the objective care marker. And I'm going to do the same, and I didn't do that in my briefing. I'm going to do that with the extraction zone. So I'm going to create another marker 2 that when it's empty in default, it's an invisible marker. You don't actually see it. And I'll place that over there. Quickly Alt tab out while I'm thinking of it and change it to extract 2 on my task 2 set simple task destination to the marker position extract 2. Back into my editor, I'm ready to test. Briefing, which I don't have. Aha! Because I am missing one important thing. There is another file, SQF, which is going to call the briefing.sqf. And in it, SQF and a description.ext file are two things that you need to start off any mission. So, again, what I'm going to do is go back to my file browser. I'm going to create those two files right now. init.sqf and another one, description.ext. And again, what I like to do is copy from other stuff I've already done. I've got basically a template here that I normally use. This is for join in progress players or non-join in progress players in a server. Sometimes different scripts need to be run under different conditions. Don't worry about it, but this is just how I do it. I'm actually going to put a sleep 10 here. And this is a little bit of text that pops up. The scrolling text at the top pops up like a typewriter. When you start your mission, that's how you do it right there. Okay, so that will execute the briefing.sqf. And my description.ext file I'm going to copy from my last mission I was working on as well. There we go. there is going to be no respawn, so I'm going to change this to none. I can delete those 2 lines. It's going to be a co-op player, co-op mission, maximum players is 9. Name of the mission is load screen is the logo that pops up. So I will copy that file over from another mission. On load mission, just a quick description of what you're going to do. There we go. And quickly I can pop back over to my file browser. I'm going to go back up to another mission where I've got another, this will be another tutorial altogether, but I can go to, which one would it be? This. Copy that and paste it back in here. So now I've got a snazzy little picture that will show up. Now I should be able to test that this is going to work. Okay, so I'm looking here on the mission I've got. Now a briefing says situation. Civilians to the east of Camp Tempest are pinned down in the ruins. Get to the civilians at the ruins and get them to the extraction LZ. Excellent, it's working great. Execution of no vehicles, jeopardize the... Don't worry about my spelling. And credits, it's all working. Task, reach the civilians at the ruins. And it's already assigned. Okay, so I am going to need to be able to complete this task and then assign the LZ task once we get to the civilians. So, need another line this. I'm going to say task 1, set task state, succeeded, task, and I'm going to use an effect here that says and a hint that gives more information. Because I want another notification to pop up a few seconds later that says get to the extraction LZ. So in order to do that, I would have to duplicate this entire trigger, which I can do quite easily. That's exactly how I'll do it. I'm going to copy and paste it. Copy and paste it. Also want to make sure I regroup it with that. Because when you copy and paste, that kind of association isn't made automatically, so I regroup this one with that player. I can remove that line. So it's going to fire off the exact same conditions, but oh, crap. Regroup this. Always use the unit selection tool because this is how you can easily mess things up. I have to yes to that vehicle. Excellent. And I also want to make this time out or countdown 5 seconds later. Excellent. Okay. There we go. Unit selection tool. Move this back in right over top of the other trigger. There we go. It's okay to have them be slightly offset so you can zoom in and see it. Okay. Now that should work. So once we've done that, I've assigned a new task, and that's right up here. I'm going to need to assign the second task a condition, depending on what's going on. If the civilians are safe. Task 2, set task state, is completed. And these are words, this completed, assigned, and failed. They're all specific words that you have to use, and you can look them up, and there's links in the mission dev channel for all the different scripting command references that you can use. Mission success. Excellent. And that should then pop up our task is completed. Just like this one, we'll say task 2, set task state, failed. And that way, when you get to the mission briefing, you'll see that the task failed at the very end. So I think that is it for the nuts and bolts of making the mission function. Now, there's that one more thing I was talking about, and that is if that player dies before we get to the civilians, we're in big trouble. But once the civilians are following him, I think it's pretty reasonable to assume that they would follow the other friendly soldiers the rest of the way if that guy is killed to the air station mic. So I want to create a condition here that if this player dies, and it's a multi-dimensional kind of thing here, because if this player dies after this event, then these players will join the group that I called Blue Group. So to do this with triggers would require several triggers. So I think what I'm going to do is run another script that will just be running and doing a check for the rest of the mission. So this one, set task assigned, and I'm going to create a new script. Null equals execute, and I'll call it and just because I don't want to make a typo on that, I'm just going to copy it. Alright, back to Notepad. So I'm going to paste in that SQF and edit it in Notepad. I always like notes here so I can, later on when I look at this mission, I know why I created the script. So, very simply, all I need to do is create a loop that's going to run continuously. And I think I could do this on server side, but I might as well do it on everybody. When you run a script, you can run it on just one player's computer, the player, or on the server, or on all the computers, because of how you set it up. So this one I'm just going to run it on all anyway. So in this case, I want to say run equals true, and then I'm going to use the while loop. While run, which means while run is still true, which I could just say while true, do and it's going to execute all this code in between these two parentheses here until, or squirrely brackets, whatever you want to call it, until the mission is completed. And all it's going to do is keep checking. If, and I'm going to have to call this guy something in the editor. I'm going to name him, I'll do that later. If interpreter, if alive interpreter, if not alive interpreter, then same thing as before. C1, C2, C3, C4, join, and that was Blue Group. And at this point, I just want to put it in a sleep, which means it's going to stop the script from just running in that loop over and over again. So it's only going to check every 5 seconds. Very simple script. Much easier to do it this way than it is to do it with triggers. If I wanted to debug this and make sure that it's running properly, I could put in a hint that script is running, or a player side chat or something like that. But in this case, I'm pretty confident and I don't need to do that. but I can test that it will work a few different ways. The problem with my script is that I need the squirrely brackets around here. And here we go in to test it one more time. I don't know why this radio alpha isn't working. Now I got another error, line 10.
One. Ceasefire.
Oh, did I get them? No. Line 10. Yeah, I don't need another bracket there. Holy smokes, that was sloppy. Radio Alpha's not going to work because it's got the wrong name.
Nine, 10, 11, 12. Join
And there
group.
they go.
Ready, ready, ready.
9, 10, 11, 12. Join group.
What's your position?
9, 10, 11, 12. Join group.
Ready, ready.
9, 10, 11, 12. Join group.
Ready, ready, ready.
9, 10, 11, 12.
It's just not
Join
going to
group.
stop.
Ready, ready, ready.
9, 10, 11, 12. Join group.
Ready, ready.
9,
So I need
10.
to put an end condition on that trigger so it doesn't just keep looping over and over again. Once they join the group, I just set run equal to false. And that, while run is true, do this, and as soon as run is equal to false, it will stop. And that will solve that problem. Okay, back to the editor. Okay, now all I need to do is fix those waypoints back for the civilians again, and set up these guys at base. I can delete that vehicle because I don't really want them to have a vehicle. So these guys I've got selected and move them back to Camp Tempest. Select these guys, move them back, make sure I don't have a marker in there, which I do, which is good, that's the one I want. And just make sure that it's all placed properly. Oh, because they're grouped. Well, that's a pain in the neck. That's why they lost their waypoints. Okay, so I delete the waypoints and I just place them. Which they will start moving around as soon as they start hearing firing. So what I can do is name this group. So this, okay, so And then I can create a trigger and a marker here. And another invisible marker. I'll call it hide. And what I'll do is create another trigger that just fires continuously every 20 seconds. Independent not present. And on that I'm going to say civ group, or first group, group move hide. What that's going to do is every 20 seconds it's going to give these guys the order to hide right at that marker. So they'll, when they start hearing shooting, they'll run around a little bit, then they'll come back to here. Every 20 seconds, then they'll try to run away, and every 20 seconds they'll come back to here. So it'll look like they're kind of freaking out. So it should work out well. Okay. Now it's just a matter of populating some enemies on here, and we will have ourselves a mission. So my next step, get rid of that radio alpha so no one accidentally kills our interpreter. And let's start putting in some enemies down here. First of all, I'm going to create a little ambience by throwing down an empty truck. Where are the civilian trucks? Okay, off-road civilian. So that we know that they're under attack. Just a quick another little trigger, just like this one. This one does do repeatedly, okay. This one's going to do the same thing, but the time out is going to be 45 seconds. And it's going to say civ truck set damage 1. So about 45 seconds into the mission, that truck should blow up. To make sure no one goes near it, I'm going to lock it. Get rid of the fuel as well. Alright. So there's a little ambience, and what we'll do here is I want to be able to see these guys moving in. So I'm going to put a couple of op4 here. So op4 sentry. 2-man team. Gonna give them a waypoint. There we go. So we got to seek and destroy. So these guys are going to be moving in. As a matter of fact, though, this one's going to be a hold. And I'm going to use another little trigger to control this. Rectangle trigger activated by blue 4. Present once. It doesn't need to have anything else in it, just so that once blue 4 is on the move, it then sets these guys into motion. So then I synchronize this trigger with that hold marker. These guys will move to here, hold. They might be taking some shots, but once we move into here, then they're going to get the order to move in on these civilians. Now, what I'm going to do is then actually hide these guys over here. The reason I'm moving them is because of the trees in here. I don't want it to be too difficult to get here. I don't want a whole bunch of AI hidden in the trees. So I'm going to hide these guys on that side. And just to be sure, I'm going to change that hold marker back to here. So there's a chance they might come over this ridge and start taking some shots, but most likely they're going to be back over here. Alright, so there's the initial attack. Now to make this easier, I'm going to speed this up a little bit. Has to be a reason why that truck blew up. So I'm going to put down a couple of groups real quick here that I'm going to reuse. Set them up with a hold marker. And a move marker just to get it started off. Do the same thing with this. Okay, so in this way, I'm going to move all of these units here just off of the map. So make it easy for me to select them later. So now I can quickly copy and paste. So now I gotta, what is this? Is this the AT team? And quickly synchronize that trigger with that hold. And move it back a little bit. Now I'm going to use the sentry team. Copy, paste, grab it, rotate it around. This one I'm going to make much more random. That's just too much on the hill. Synchronize that hold. Paste another group down. Select them. Synchronize that. So, as you can see, very quickly we can populate the mission. I'll pause this and I'll keep going. So one thing I forgot about this trigger that's going to create these start these holds moving is it has to be a switch. That's why I can't use a switch, and a switch trigger will not fire the on activation of anything else. It'll fire non-activation of its own, but what that means is if you had something in a hold marker that has an activation, it will not fire it, which just makes it problematic if you want to have something else later on run off of it. So I use switch triggers just for independently. So I want a second wave to start coming in here. So I had it set. So there is something that happens here once this happens. Just to make sure I'm not going to run into problems, what I'm going to do, create one more variable. If I can find that trigger, that normally I'm much more organized. There we go. What I'm going to do, create another variable. So then what I can do here is when objective 2 is created, you might be able to do that off that one of these other triggers and make it a switch. I just don't want to mess around with it because I'm just going to throw down another one. That will work off of that variable. Make sure I'm sure it fires for everybody that way. Activation is equal to and it's going to be a switch, and that way I can use this one to trigger off my second wave. So my second wave being hold points like up here, where I can synchronize these. Once the second wave starts coming in, these guys all start moving in as well. Synchronize that hold on a second wave. Let's get these guys a little more hidden. That doesn't matter, we'll start. And like always, there should be one big battle at the end. I'm just going to use my AT team. These guys are going to, yeah, they'll run off of that switch as well. And just to make it a little more interesting, put some base defenses down here. Combat, never fire. Okay, so I'm going to move them to that spot. They won't fire. And the next waypoint will be to move to there. The completion radius will be 10, so they won't really move anywhere. But they will begin to open fire. What this is going to do is these guys are going to drive down and hold here, but they're not going to fire until one more trigger. Activated by blue 4. Another big trigger, rectangle, present. And it's going to be a switch. So once these guys get somewhere around here, and then we need to make this much bigger. Then they'll get close and they'll hear that their friendly gun is starting to fire on enemies and helping them out. So I synchronize that to the hold. And I'm going to make quickly a couple of conditions for if they go try to flank far around. So I'm going to create and copy this trigger. And in that case, simply going to put up 4. Mean, nasty stuff. Vehicle lock special is none, so they'll start on the tarmac. And just because, I'll make another one for each trigger. First waypoint is going to be a hold. So that's their first initial condition. The next thing that they're going to do Need to make a big completion radius on air vehicles because it takes a long time to turn around. And then back here again. Quickly while I'm thinking of it, this is which helicopter, that one. So I'm going to synchronize that to the hold. And then grab this one and give it some waypoints out here. Oh, what the heck is attached to? And that would do it. Synchronize that hold with that trigger, and we are done the mission. Make sure I got the right one. Indeed. So there we go. That should be the end of the mission there. We've got a briefing. We've got end conditions. Everything should fire fine. Now it's time for a playthrough. Since I've added the air patrols to the north and south, I figure I better add that into my mission briefing. So add that into the situation. Something that some people tend to miss. So I want to make a line break in my mission briefing. So that you do by doing this. Some code that puts in a line break. And so a few seconds into this mission, we should hear an explosion as a civilian truck is blown up. Quite a long run. Something else has got to happen. And to randomize this a bit, I am going to just change the probability of presence. And I'm ready for publication. Okay, so now that I have completed this mission, I have all of the files I need here. I'm just going to launch PBO view. Going to it goes to my document, into my Arma 3 other profiles, inside my player name under multiplayer missions. Co-op 9 civilian extraction folder is there. It's the same folder here. And I pack it. Now what's happened is, if I go back one folder, there is the PBO that I need to upload. I'm going to upload that to a file sharing site and then make a mission submission thread that I can do very quickly. I go into armassault.com, going to the Armed Assault section, or the tacticalgamer.com Armed Assault Mission Development, and clicking on the mission submission thread. Simply copy the first part of the text that's in the initial post. Come on now. Do it nice and neat, would you? Reply to thread. Paste that in there. I like to go advanced so I get a bigger window. And date of submission. What is it? I think it's the 8th. Number of player slots is total slots and then suggested. So total slots is 9. Suggested is 6. Where it's hosted, you would cut the link here for the download. Which is not applicable. Required content A3 beta. No previous version. Upload to and here I would put in my briefing, which I can quickly do. I'm going to say and there you go. That's basically the submission process right there. I'm the uncle from tacticalgamer.com, and this has been the Arma 3 Mission Editor Tutorial 7, where I did an entire mission. Enjoy. Make some good missions.